exposed to OSDP. I can't remember exactly when. It's been more than 10 years, certainly, perhaps 15-ish, maybe, or something like that. And the title confused me from the beginning, and it has always confused me until now. Until now, I finally figured it out recently. It's my responsibility, I think, that I didn't come across this very simple explanation prior to this. Probably if I'd done my research more diligently, I could have. But here's my understanding of this. During the 19th century, the East Asia was opening up to the West. You know, China, Japan, Korea were opening up to the West. And with that, with the missionaries coming and with the all sorts of things coming from the West, for the first time, East Asia was being exposed to philosophies and ideologies of the West. And there was a problem how to translate many of the terms into East Asian languages, especially into Chinese. And pretty much, you know, Japan and Korea would take their cue from the Chinese, but you know, or the Japanese would translate something into Chinese characters, and that would be adopted by Korea and China or something like that. But anyway, there was a process of trying to absorb these Western philosophies into Eastern language. And they came across this, and they did this from, by the way, English and from German, because German was one of the main languages of philosophy at that time. So they came across this term ontology, or its equivalent in German. And so what to do about that? Ontology. And it seems that they finally came up with two ways of translating ontology into Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. And one was basically just the study of existence, 존재론, 손자론, 존재론, which literally means the study of existence. But the other was 본체론. That was a way in which ontology, the term ontology, was translated into Japanese and Korean. And here, I found this in a Korean dictionary, 본체론. Wow, it's in a dictionary. And I've superimposed my translation of their definition over it. And you see, it says, a field of learning that studies existence and all the fundamental and universal rules of existence. And then, let's see, I don't have I need a pointer, if I can have a laser pointer. Oh, yeah, okay. It doesn't reach that far. The light doesn't reach that far. Maybe this needs batteries. I can see it on the floor, but then it doesn't go up to the screen. So anyway, below that, there's a definition of 본체 without the just in a more general sense. And 본체 means one of the definitions that, for example, if you have a machine, then it's the main body of that machine. For example, when we look at a desktop, a desktop computer, or we have what we call the tower, right? We have the main body of the computer is the tower, and then we have what do you call it? Anyway, you have the main body. Okay, that would be the 본체 of the computer. And so that is what 본체론 means. This is what I'm talking about here. And it says the 사물의 정체. So the real identity of things is the first definition, and this is the foundation of things. But also here for machines and so forth, the central portion, or what is the fundamental thing. But 본체론 itself means the field of learning that studies existence and all the fundamental rules of existence. So it's pretty much a synonym with a 전제론, very similar to 전제론, maybe even the same but both of those are translations of the English word ontology and the German equivalent of that into Chinese and Korean and Japanese. So that, for me, solves the mystery. This is basically principal ontology, very simply. So should we change the title? No. Because we're going to talk about God being the ponche of love. He's the ponche of 심정. He's the ponche of a law, ponche of this and ponche of that. So how are you going to translate that if you simply make this principal ontology? That would be a difficult thing. So he's the main body, or you could say original substance of love, of 심정, of law, and so forth. And so I think we should keep this original substance translation, but understand that we are talking about principal ontology. So does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so and here another translation of poncheron is ontology or substantialism. We won't go into that. Spinoza and so forth. We don't need to go into that. All right, next, I want to explain about Korean language. By the way, these are slides that are not in your book because this is not part of Father's canonized content, but these are comments that I think are necessary for English speakers or for non-Korean speakers. You got to learn Korean. Bottom line. Korean is the language of Adam. Period. Right? And so if we want to have a deep relationship with Adam, then we need to be able to speak the same language as he does. You know, parents and children should speak the same language. That's just a fact of life, I think. And I know there are people who have deep relationships with Father without speaking Korean. And they say, hey, my relationship with Father is much deeper than Tim Elder's, so why should I have to learn Korean? Okay, I will accept that you have a deeper relationship. But if you were to learn Korean, then your relationship would be much, 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 much deeper than it is now. You know, we have these books, right? And the letters in these books have not miraculously changed into English. The letters in these books are still Korean, and they will always be Korean. But the words in these books are words of life. So if you are interested in life, then I think you will want to become familiar with the words in these books. You know, there are some people who say that, well, now the providence has moved to the West, and so there's no longer a need to learn Korean. The providence can move around the world according to God's need. God may move the providence to Africa or to Australia or to Antarctica or to the North Pole, anywhere he needs, in order to bring about God's kingdom as quickly as possible. But Adam is Adam. And the language of Adam is not going to change. And these words will never miraculously turn into English or to French or to German. They will always remain Korean. I see Father as a translator. Father has taken God's word and translated it into a human language. And no human language is fully capable of expressing the entirety of God's word, because all human languages come from a fallen background. Language is basically the expressing the collective experience of a certain group of people through history. And Korean is no different. Sure, God prepared Korean to be least bad of all the fallen human languages, the least bad, in order to express his truth in the 20th century. And that is true. And there's a lot of God's word that, and the truth of God that will never be expressed in human language, and that's why Father emphasized the need for learning through experience. If you look at the word chehyur, which we translate into English as learning through experience, you have to experience it in order to know it. For example, when God uses the word love, this is very different from our understanding of love. We don't know what God means by love until we have experienced it. And so, so we can only learn it that way. And God is a God of love. So he expressed his truth in a language. Is anybody asleep? No. Listen to what I'm about to say. In a language that everyone can learn. If you say you cannot learn Korean, then you are saying God is not a God of love. He said, yeah, if you say that God expressed his truth in a language that everybody except me can learn, really? Have you had this conversation with God? Has he confirmed this? Yeah, I know. You're lost. I'm just going to take care of the 99 sheep. You're the one that's out there in the woods, and I'm not going to go looking for you. No, that's not true. That's not true. Some people will say that, oh, Tim is just saying this because God has given him a special ability to learn language. Not true. Not true. I really wish that I could find my high school German teacher so that she could testify to this, that Tim Eller is not capable, adapted learning language. I took German for, I can't remember how many years, much longer than I should have anyway. Somehow 2 or I think maybe 3 years in high school, and then when I got into college, somehow I got conned into taking it again, and I never did well in it. I might have gotten a B a couple of times, but mostly B minus, C plus, C. I am not good at learning languages, I can assure you. But I learned Korean because I was desperate to learn Korean. Because after my wife and I were matched by Father, she was sent out pioneering. And this was a time in Korea when, actually even within Korea, it was difficult to make long-distance calls. Extremely different from today. And so we would write to each other. And we agreed that she would write to me in Korean, and I would write to her in English, and we would learn each other's language this way. And so when I got these letters from her, I was desperate to learn what was in them. And so I struggled a lot with the dictionary, wrestled with the dictionary, sometimes literally rolling around on the floor with the dictionary, trying to figure this thing out. And gradually, I was able to learn Korean because of that desperation, because those words on that paper were words that I wanted to know. I wanted them. They were words of love, I assumed. Yes, they were. So I think if when people become desperate to know Father and Father's love and desperate to have a relationship with Father, they will turn to Korean as a tool. And some people will say, well, you know, there are a lot of people who know Korean, native speakers of Korean, who disobeyed Father. So why learn Korean? What good did Korean do for them? Well, yeah, language is a tool. That's true. And you can use a tool for good or for evil. And just because someone uses it for evil does not mean that you cannot also use it for good. Not everyone who owns a hammer can build a house. But if you're going to build a house, good idea to have the proper tools. Yes. Okay. All right, so let me lead from that into a little plug that on February 6th of 2022, there will be a Korean speech contest. And this is something that my family does every year. And the assignment will be to recite either the national anthem of Cheongguk, A Blessing of Glory, or the family pledge. And 3 native speaker judges will be judging the participants, and they'll be judging them on the basis of pronunciation, attitude, and accuracy. And the first prize, person winning the first prize will receive an American Eagle quarter-ounce gold coin. And then a $100 gift certificate for the second prize and $50 for the third prize. So, yes, and this is for beginners, and I will judge who is a beginner and who is not. But the purpose of that is to hopefully inspire more people to begin learning Korean. You're not a beginner unless you begin. All right. All right, so let's go through, let me just demonstrate to you how easy Korean language is. Okay. Now here's an English word, cat. And it's written left to right. Right? You got left to right, and we read it left to right. But it doesn't have to be written this way, does it? What if cat were written this way? Okay, left to right, top to bottom. We could still read that, right? Yeah, single syllable, left to right, top to bottom. If we all agreed that this is how English would be written, we could still write English this way, couldn't we? All right? Well, then suppose we add another syllable like this, all right? Catnip, that's a word, 2 syllables. Each one is read left to right, top to bottom. Catnip. We could do that, right? We could do that, okay. So just change your thinking, and this is how Korean is written. This is how Korean is written. Each syllable is grouped together like this, and then is read left to right, top to bottom. Very simple. There are 22 letters, 2 fewer than English. English has 24, Korean only has 22. All right, I think it's, 14 consonants and 8 vowels. And here's a list of them here. And there are these down here are combinations of vowels. So you take that one and stick that one with that one, and then you get this one. You stick that one, and you get this one. That one and that one, you get this one. And that one and that one, you get this one. And that one and that one and that one, you get this one, and so forth. All right, so these are combinations of vowels. These are the consonants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 2 is 14. And 8 vowels, okay? So let's take a Korean word here, a random Korean word. And we can figure this out, okay? We can figure this out, okay? So these are, this is a word with 3 syllables, okay? And then we read each syllable left to right, top to bottom. Okay, so here we start with this one, okay? And then we go back to the chart, and we look for a consonant that, or a letter that looks like that here. Here it is right here. And you see here the second row, the third one from the left. There you find it, okay? And it's pronounced kind of like CH, except in Korean you have aspirated and unaspirated consonants. Aspirated means that you're putting out more breath. Ch, ch. So you're almost kind of spitting on the person you're talking to. If you watch Koreans talking, they're kind of spitting on each other, aren't they? So those are aspirated consonants, all right? So that's a ch, all right? And so then, all right, so that's we got one. And so then let's look at the second one, okay? Left to right, top to bottom, so this is the second one, okay? And then we see a vowel here that looks like that, okay? Oh, okay? So then I always thought of this as being that, if someone were to punch you in the stomach, oh, that's how that's pronounced, okay? So here, okay, cha, all right? And then here we have the bottom one. So left to right, top to bottom, and then we have another consonant there at the bottom. And so here, this is n, right? And this says here that this is kind of like pronounced kind of like an N, all right? So then this is a chun, all right? And then the second one, we have, again, left to right, top to bottom. And we look at see if there's a circle, and yes, there is a circle, except that here there is an exception. But it's an exception that is constant. It always is constant. And that is that when this round consonant, it comes at the beginning of a syllable, it is silent. Always, always, always. So it's an exception, but it's a consistent exception, so it's easy to remember. Just like in English, psychology. What letter does psychology start with? S? No, it starts with P, doesn't it? There are also in English as silent consonants. So here, this is always at the beginning of a syllable that is always silent, so we can ignore that. And then the second one, we're going left to right, top to bottom. So the second one is here, the straight up and down line here. This is it here, E, okay? E, it's an I, but it's like an Italian I, okay? And then here, top of the bottom, we got a little maze type situation here, right? A little squiggly thing there, okay? And then here, we can see that it is where there it is, right there. They say, here it says R, it's like an R, but man, R, L, you know, people from East Asia have troubles with R's and L's. This is the reason. There's it's kind of neither, but both. So, all right, so this is chun and then il, chun, il, okay? So we're making progress there. So let's look at this one now. Here we have 3 letters, but they're arranged like this vertically, and that's because this one in the middle has a horizontal line. So you really can't arrange these little letters like this, dun, dun, dun. Instead it goes dun, 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 okay, vertically. Okay, but no, that's not a problem. So then we go back here, oops, wrong direction. And that top one, sort of the little corner there, is kind of like a G, all right? G or K, it's kind of between a G or a K, all right? And then that one now with the horizontal line and the little doohickey at the bottom, that's sort of sticking down at the bottom. Yeah, we see that there is a, oops, keep going the wrong direction. Here is oo, okay? So oo, and then the same consonant, k. So now we have chun, il, gu. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Chun, il, gu. You got it? Yeah. Scott? Okay. Okay, I'm sure Scott will get it, yes. So imagine if God had expressed his truth in the Thai language, or in the Arabic language, or even in Chinese. We'd have to be learning tens of thousands of Chinese characters. Tens of thousands of Chinese characters, all right? And each one would be very, very complicated. But the God of love actually had a very wise king of Korea back a few hundred years ago, come up with this idea that there should be a language that anybody can use. And this is what he did. At that time, he said that, you know, people who, peasants who don't have time to learn all these complicated Chinese characters should also be able to write petitions to the king. And that was apparently his motivation for doing that. But providentially, it was so that everybody in the world could learn this language. And it's not a difficult language, regardless of what certain nationalistic Koreans may tell you. I know Koreans like to think, no one can learn our language, yeah. Look at all the words we have for red. Forget about it, all right? Forget about it. You're not learning all the words for red. You just need to be able to read this. You just need to be able to decipher all the words that are in this book. And you don't even have to be able to pronounce it very well. This is one of the 615 volumes, the Sermons of the Reverend Sung Myung-moon. Okay, there are 615 volumes of these. I see them on some people's walls, but these are not items for interior decorating. All right? That's not what these were made for. They were made to give people life. But unless you can read them, they're not going to give you life. Unless you have the tool to decipher them, to decipher the words that are in this book, that it's not going to give you life. So, that being said, I just want to emphasize that we are going to be learning Father's Poncheron, the original substance of divine principle, in English. And one way to express this might be to say that this is like watching black and white TV instead of color. All right? So if you are satisfied with black and white TV, maybe that's good, but Who is satisfied with black and white TV, right? We all have color televisions these days. Yeah. Okay. You are satisfied with black and white? Well, I don't either. But when I had a TV, it wasn't black and white, except when I was very, very young. All right. So let's now go to the family pledge with that having been said. So now in studying the family pledge, there is an official translation of the family pledge. But in really getting into the meaning of family pledge, I think I need to go into it as it is written in Korean. And so the order, some of the words that I'm going to be showing you now are maybe a little bit different from what you are accustomed to reciting in English. And I think, if you can learn to recite the family pledge in Korean, spiritually that would be a tremendous condition for you to connect with Father there. Let's make sure our cell phones are off, okay? Thank you. All right, so here, before we go into the family pledge, let's look at what the family is. And the family is God's ideal of creation. The family is the only institution that God established. He did not establish government. He did not establish churches. He did not establish any organization or association except the family. And that is the basic building block of the kingdom of heaven. It's the basic building block or the basic unit. And it's also the training ground for 심정 and true love that allows us to be registered in the kingdom of true love. Later on, we're going to get it to a point where Father gives a very specific definition of 심정. Does anyone remember it from last year or the year before? We've covered this a couple of years. 심정, the definition of 심정. Okay, I hear people saying something that are close, yes. But it is a irrepressible impulse. Irrepressible impulse to do what? What does it mean to love, though? To invest love. To invest love where? In the stock market? In an object partner. Why? For what purpose? To experience joy and love, yes. God cannot experience love. He is a God of love, but he cannot experience love by himself. And so love flows from God's 심정 into the object. Anyway, we'll be getting into that much, much later. But since the word 심정 appears now, I just want to remind you of that definition. So yes, the 심정 is an irrepressible impulse. Now, some people have an irrepressible impulse to play video games or something else, but this is much stronger than that, right? This is an irrepressible impulse to give love. God cannot not love. And because he cannot not love, he cannot not create. Because without creating, he cannot experience love. Anyway, we'll be getting into all that much later on in the presentation. All right, it's also the core body where the three-generational love is united. 3 generations of grandparents, parents, and children. And it's the basic unit of order for society and a nation. So without the family, you cannot have a society, cannot have a nation. So if someone wants to destroy a society, then they, of course, would go about destroying the family. The society and nation are not built on the basis of individuals. Individuals come together as families, and then families come together as tribes, and tribes come together as societies and nations. And then also, this is where absolute sex is taught. Absolute sex meaning purity before marriage, and then also fidelity within marriage. To have just one sexual partner during the entire course of your life. This is absolute sex. Realm of true love and true life and true lineage, sexual purity and purity of lineage and purity of love. Accordingly, the true family is the eternal homeland of humankind. So Father is teaching us to create or to establish a true family. We're in the process. We haven't done it yet, but we're in the process of doing that. So we don't need to beat ourselves up too much if we're not having been able to do that already, but we do need to repent constantly and to ask for God's forgiveness and to promise God that we are going to continue to do better. And this is what the family pledge is all about. The family pledge in its 8 verses tells us what it is to create a true family. All right? So this is the backbone, the core, and the order of the family. So the family pledge is actually that backbone of the family, and it's the absolute standard of realizing 천유국 and the core of its constitution. It's the gospel of gospels for connecting our lives with God. It's the key for opening the gate of the kingdom of heaven. It's the prayer among all prayers, the blessing among all blessings given by heaven to humanity. And the family pledge is the record of the victories won during the life of the true parent. The family pledge is comprised of 8 verses. So we'll be going through each of those verses from now. Any questions on what we've talked about so far? Are people who are listening online able to send in questions? Maybe we can arrange that somehow later. Okay, not. The answer is no. Okay. All right, so let's look at it. Let's, if you can, recite it in Korean first, and then we'll go through here. 천유국 주인 우리 가정은 참 사랑을 중심하고 본향 땅을 찾아 본연의 창조 이상인 지상 천국과 천상 천국을 창건할 것을 맹세하나이다. So you can see here again, as we were mentioning before, that we have a whole bunch of syllables, right? A whole bunch of syllables. But you can see that they're all, this is 천유국, which we already studied. This one just has 2 letters, so it's got one on top and one on bottom, all right? This one has 3, so it's got here that silent consonant, and then we have the vowel, and then we have the consonant there at the bottom. And then here, again, just 2 letters, here, and so forth and so forth. And this is 우리 주인. 주인 means owner, okay? And owner, what does the owner do? It takes an interest for one thing. You're not an owner unless you have an interest in something. If you don't care about something, you can't say that you're the owner. They're taking responsibility and to protect and nurtures whatever it is that you are owning. So 천유국 주인 우리 가정은, 가정 is family. So our family, the owner of 천유국. So then already we see that our family then takes an interest in 천유국, takes responsibility for 천유국, protects 천유국, and nurtures 천유국. So 참 사랑을 중심하고, so 참 is a true, right? 참 is true, and 사랑 is love. So 참 사랑을 중심하고, centering on. We can, if I had more time, I'd go into the grammar, but we won't do that now. 참 사랑을, so centering on true love. So our family, the owner of 천유국, centering on true love, will seek, 찾아 means to seek, 본향 땅, so the original homeland, okay? Seek the original homeland, so that's one thing that we're doing, centering on true love as the owners of 천유국. We're seeking the original homeland, so that's number 1. And then the second thing that we are going to do is to build 창건. Father, when he first announced the family pledge, talked a lot about that particular word. He says, we're not creating, we're not recreating, we're not restoring, we are building because this is the first time that it's being done. This is that God's original ideal, God's kingdom has never existed before, and so we are building that. 창 in the first letter there means to create, and the second letter means to build. It's actually a combination of 2 Chinese characters, but here we have they're written phonetically or phonetically in Korean. That the original Chinese character would be to create and to build. So we're actually creating and building and creating as we build. The kingdom of God on earth, kingdom of God in heaven, which are the original ideal of creation. So you can see that the order is different because the grammar is different. But But it's important to know that this first line is going to be the same in all of the eight verses, that our family, the owner of Cheonryuk, centering on true love. And here, in English, it comes at the end. That's kind of an unfortunate thing because of the difference in grammar, but I think that's one reason why it's valuable to be able to know this in Korean. Okay. All right, and then number 2, here it's kind of long, so I put the English on the next slide. So here again, the first line is the same. Cheonryuk 주인, the owner of Cheonryuk. 우리 가정, our family. 참 사랑, true love. 중심하고, centering on. Right? So because the order of verbs and the objects of the verb are reversed in Korean sometimes, and so but our family centering on true love. So all 8 verses start with that statement. Our family centering on true love. Our family centering on true love. Do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Here, 하나님과 참 부모님을 모시오. So 모시다 means to attend God and the true parent or true parents. And in Korean, there is no difference most of the time or many times between singular and plural. And so we have to understand, depending on the context, whether a father is speaking only about the true parent or true parents together with himself and a true mother. But father by himself is a true parent. And in one of the, we'll get this later in the presentation, but in one of these books, the father states clearly that 참 부모, or true parent, is the title that God gave to Sun Myung-moon. So he is a true parent even by himself. But sometimes he will use that word, and from the context, it's obvious that he is also including true mother Hyun Shil-kang. That is something that we need to understand, and that pray about it, whether this is singular or plural. But that's basically a problem for English speakers and perhaps for other languages as well. But in Korean, 참 부모님 is so to attend God and true parents. So centering on true love, our family is going to attend God and true parents and become a family, 대표적 가정, a representative family of 천주. As I said, Father is a translator, and so he's putting God's truth into Korean, and when he does so, he sometimes stretches. He'll take a word and he'll stretch it. Or sometimes he will just create a new word. But many times he will use a word and you look that word up in a Korean dictionary and it's obvious that he's not using the word in the way that it's originally intended to be used. And 천주 is one of those words. 천주, we translate that, we've been translating it mostly as cosmos, right? So also cosmos. If you look up cosmos in the English dictionary, it means sort of the physical universe or something like that. But to Father, no, 천주 refers to the combination of the physical world and the spirit world. In other words, the entirety. So in other words, for the entirety of God's creation. 천주. So this is one of the examples of how Father kind of stretches the words or gives words new meaning. And this is part of learning a Father's teaching, is to learn the way that he uses terminology. 천주, so to become a representative family of the cosmos, representing the cosmos. And representing is a term that Father uses quite often. When he prays, for example, he will say, everyone here. When he prays in front of a group of disciples, he will say, everyone here representing all of humanity or something like that. So because God will give the blessing to those people there, with the idea then that those people will take it and spread it to others and to all humanity. So we become a family that is capable of representing all of the cosmos, both the spirit world and the physical world. This is what we are pledging to do here. And to become a central family, 중심. In God's providence, 중심 or center is very important. God is a vertical God. And so he works, God works in a vertical line and in a point. But if it is just a point, there is no reproduction, there is no expansion. So this point has to be expanded horizontally. And we'll be getting into that later on. But to become a central family, then that means that we are in the central position of God's providence in that particular area, that particular neighborhood, or in our among the people that we are dealing with, so that to become a central family. And then in the family, to become 효자, means a filial child. And then in the nation, become a 충신, and we translate this as patriot. Literally, it means a loyal subject or a patriot. And in the world, become a 성인. We translate that as saint to become a saint in the world. And in the cosmos, again using the word cosmos here to mean the entirety of God's creation, physical world and spirit world. So in the cosmos, become a 성자의 가정. So we translate 성자 as a divine sons and daughters, 성자. Literally, it would be a divine child or holy child, divine sons and daughters. So the way, tori is a difficult word to translate. But as a son, there are certain things that I am expected to do from my parents. And there are just some things that are natural. Or as an older brother or as a younger brother, there are certain things that are expected of me as a person who is in that position, the position of a son or as a parent. So that is what tori means. I don't know if you can kind of get a sense of a tori. Right? If you're a parent, there are certain things that are expected of you, aren't there? Or if you're a child in relationship to your parents, there are certain things that are expected of you. Okay? So tori, I think, can be understood that way. 완성. Here we go. 완성. For a long time in English, we've been translating 완성 as perfect or perfect, depending on whether it's being used as a verb or an adjective. But the more I look at this, I really think that the better way to translate it is to complete. Complete. That's my opinion. And you can have different translations. I mean, look at how many translations there are of the Bible in English, and that's just English alone. There are dozens, perhaps hundreds, I don't know, of translations of the Bible into English. And people look at different translations and they choose one that they like, or they choose a combinations of ones that they like, sometimes one, sometimes another. But my translation of 완성 is complete. Yeah. When we build a building, like for example, when someone was building this building, okay, then they built the building, and then at some point they say, okay, this is now finished, it's complete. I've built it according to the blueprint that you gave me, and now it's complete. Now it's ready to be used for the purpose that you originally had in mind. So that to me is much closer to the meaning that I see Father using the term 완성. We go through, we know, we'll be getting into, I'm sort of jumping ahead here, but we go through a growing period, right? We go through a growing period. And then when we come to the top of the growing period, then we are actually ready to start living our lives as human beings in the way that God intended us to live, to actually exercise our freedom and responsibility in a state of complete oneness with God's 심정, with God's 심정. Yeah. So you can think about that. For me, I always like to say complete, all right? 것을 맹세하나이다. 맹세 means to pledge. So here the verb comes at the end. The main verb to pledge comes at the end, and that's often the case in Korean sentences. So here, as the family owning Cheonryuguk, owner of Cheonryuguk, and centering on true love, we're going to attend God and true parents, and then we're going to become a family that represents the cosmos, representative family of the cosmos, and become a central family, 중심적 가정, central family. Okay, so those are already three things that we're pledging to do here. And then here in this 4 and 5, we are pledging to be the patriot in the family, filial child in the family, patriot in the nation, saint in the world, and then in the cosmos to be the divine sons and daughters, or to actually complete the way of these of this. So do what is expected of a filial child in the family, do what is expected of a patriot in the nation, do what is expected of a saint in the world, and do what is expected of a divine son or daughter in the cosmos. All right, so that's number 2. So these are all, when we say building a true family, these are all the things that go into that. All right, and this is the actual English translation that I think that we are using. Okay, and then number 3, again, I think we'll have the English on the next one. Here again, 천유국 주인 우리 가정은 참 사랑 중심하고. Same first line. 천유국 owner, our family, true love, centering on. So centering on true love, okay? So here, this is much shorter. 4대 심정권과. So the 4 realms of 심정. What are the 4 realms of 심정? Does anybody remember from last year? Let's give Christy a chance. Okay. Maybe conjugal love before and then parents. Yes, very good. Children, sibling, and then husband, wife, or conjugal love, and then parents' love. You have to be husband and wife before you can be parents. At least that's what we teach. That is what God teaches anyway. Don't try to become a parent before you're a husband or wife. Yes, that's a different situation, yes. But we've been translating this as love, yes, but there is a difference between love and 심정, because love flows from 심정. 심정 is the irrepressible impulse to invest love. So love comes from 심정. So that is another reason why it's good to learn Korean. So it's actually the child's 심정. So the child also has an irrepressible impulse to love the parent. The child is not born hating the parent, hating the mother. The child, just when it is born, automatically goes to the mother's breasts and starts suckling on the mother's breast, right? So the child, even a newborn baby, has this irrepressible impulse, and then towards siblings as well, and then also husband and wife. There's this develop this irrepressible impulse for each other, and then the parents to children. So these are the 4 realms of 심정, and then the 3 3대 완권. So there's controversy over just exactly what Father meant by 대. 대, depending on how it's written in the Chinese characters, can either mean generation, 3 generation, or 3 great. And so there's been a lot of controversy until now about which one did Father mean. You know, if you ask Father, you know what he will say? And this is something that, one of the Christian ministers who worked a lot with Father told me. He said, I would go to Father and ask him all sorts of questions, and most of the time, he would tell me, pray about it. He didn't give the answers. And I think my guess is that, my speculation is that Father is encouraging us to find the truth ourselves, that he has given us sort of the overall outline, but, there's value in something when you really have to work for it, rather than when someone just gives you the answer, right? If you get even with a student, if you just give them the answer all the time, they're not going to remember it the next time the same question comes up. They have to figure it out themselves. Then they'll remember it, right? That's my experience anyway. Yeah. If someone doesn't remember what 4 times 4 is, if you just keep telling them, it's 16. And the next time 4 times 4 comes up, what was 4 times 4? Could you tell me again? It's 16. It comes up again. What? I don't remember. No, they have to figure it out themselves. Then they'll remember it. They have to put in the sweat. But I think here, when we realize that the family pledge is an eternal document, it's not just something that's going to exist for the current 3 generations of kingships that we have now, the 3-generation kingship that we have now, but this is 1,000 years from now. We're still going to be talking about the Samde Wangkwon, Samde kingships. So in that sense, to me, it makes sense to think that this represents 3 great kingships, or it could be also still be 3 generations, but probably it could be either or both. It could be both. Grandfather, child, and grandchild. 3 great kingships or 3-generation kingships, or in English we don't have a word that means both. So again, better to learn Korean. Okay. So depending on the context, either 3-generation kingships or 3 great kingships. And Hwangjokwon. Hwangjokwon is the realm of the royal family. Well, that would be the realm of the royal family. And Wansong again, we're going to complete that. And this is what we pledge. We're pledging to do this. And later on, we'll see that verse number 3 is really perhaps the deepest of all of them. That actually the 4 realms of love, the 3-generation or 3 great kingships, the realm of the royal family. These 3 things are probably the most essential to creating God's kingdom in the family. Okay, so this is the English translation. Okay. And then number 4, again, first line is the same. 천유국 주인 우리 가정은. So 천유국, owner, our family, true love, centering on. So what we're going to do now. 하나님의 창조 이상인. So here, God's original ideal of creation. God's original ideal of creation. And God's original ideal of creation is something that Father keeps coming back to. Because the whole purpose of history, from the time that Adam and Eve fell, has been to restore and realize God's original ideal of creation. That is the whole purpose of the Bible. From the moment that Adam and Eve fell, this is what God has been trying to do, and this is what we are now pledging to accomplish now in this era. So 하나님의 창조, but in means that it's kind of it connects this to the next. 천주 대가족 형성하고. 형성 means to form. 대가족 means extended family. The extended family of cosmos. Extended family of cosmos. So, centering on true love, we're going to form the extended family of the cosmos, which is the original ideal of God. And 천주 again means as cosmos. It means the totality of God's creation, the physical world and the spirit world. And so this means this is referring to our ancestors in the spirit world and those of us are here in the physical world. So we are encompassing both the spirit world and the physical world. Unfortunately, in the Korean and the English, it's translated as universal family. That's unfortunate because universal means the whole world, right? The whole world family. But that's not what Father wrote. It's not of the whole world, but it's actually of the 천주, which refers to the spirit world and the physical world. So this is our families, our ancestors, and ourselves here on earth. And then we are going to create a world of freedom, peace, unity, and happiness. And we're going to complete that. And we pledge to complete this world of freedom, peace, unity, and happiness. By forming this family of 천주 대가족, the extended family of the spirit world and physical world. All right. couple of things here. We're talking about here the connection between spirit world and physical world, and we'll talk about that relationship later on in the presentation. But we need each other. The people in spirit world need us, and we need them. They need us because there is no growth, there is no repentance without a physical body. And they don't have physical bodies anymore. They used to. People who were human beings used to have a physical body, but they were not able to meet the true parent while they were on earth, while they were in their physical body. And so they have gone to spirit world in a state where they are not yet ready to enter the kingdom of heaven or to build the kingdom of heaven. I shouldn't say enter, because heaven is not some place that we enter, it's something that we build. They're not yet ready to create and build the kingdom of heaven. And so they need to work with us so that they can receive some of the merit that becomes available when good things are done through our physical bodies. When they help us, then they can receive some of the merit of that, and that then helps them to grow more in their spirit selves. We need them because they are our secret weapon. We are very few. We are very weak. We are not knowledgeable in the ways of the world. So how was it that 12 disciples of Jesus were able to start a movement that eventually took over the entire world? It's because of spirit world, and because spirit world was there. Because God working through spirit world, the Holy Spirit working through spirit world and mobilizing spirit world. And Father often talked about mobilizing spirit world, that we have to mobilize spirit world. So whatever mission we may have, whether it's the mission to create a family or the mission to do whatever else that we're trying to do, or trying to mobilize patriots or something else like that, we always need the assistance from spirit world. So there is an important cooperation between physical world and spirit world. And also here we talk about freedom and unification and happiness. And unfortunately, some people think that when we talk about unity, we're talking about the lack of diversity. But that's obviously not the case, because God is infinitely diverse. He is infinitely diverse, but within God, there is no contradiction. And that is because within God, everything is pointed in the same direction. In other words, it is always pointed towards the same purpose. So we can be as diverse as we want to be. We can be completely and totally diverse. But to have unification means that we are all pointing then in the same direction. We are all working for the same purpose. And so that's an important distinction to make there. And there's the English. And all right, number 5 then, again, Cheonryuguk, owner of Cheonryuguk, our family, centering, the true love centering on, okay, then what are we going to do now? 매일 means every day. 주체적, so that means a subject partner, 천상세계와, heavenly world. 대상적, object partner, 지상세계, earthly world, 통일을 향해. So toward the unification of the heavenly world, which is in the subject partner position, and the earthly world, which is in the object partner position. So towards the unity of these two, okay, what are we going to do? 전진적 발전을 촉진할 것을. We're going to facilitate the forward marching, or forward the progress or development, okay, towards this unity. All right. So the important thing here is that the heavenly world, in other words, the spirit world, is in the subject partner position. The earthly world is in the object partner position. The heavenly world is the world of cause. God created the heavenly world first. He created the spirit world first. He created the angels before he created human beings. And so then, the earthly world is in the object partner position. But right now, we're in a position where sin was committed on the earth, in the physical world, okay, and so that's where the restoration has to occur. But in God's original creation, it is the heavenly world that is the world of cause, and the world that is in the subject partner position, and the physical world is in the object partner position in his original ideal of creation. So we are working towards the unity of these two. These two have been divided, have been separated ever since the fall of human beings. So we need to bring about the unity of that, and we are pledging as a family centering on true love, and as the owners of Cheonryuk, we're going to work every day to do the forward motion, the forward going development towards this unity of the spirit world and physical world, with the spirit world being in the subject partner position and the physical world being in the object partner position. Christy, you look a little bit concerned. It's okay? All right, thank you. All right. All right, and then let's look at number 6 then. What are we going to do now? First line, again, the same first line. Cheonryuk, owner, our, family. By this time, you should have learned this Korean, I suspect. What is 참사랑 in English? 지혜님, I don't want the A student answering all the questions. True love, okay. All right. Got to let others go through the sweat of figuring it out, okay? Okay, so true love, yes, true love. Centering on true love. 중심. 중심 means center, right? 중심 means center. 하나님과 참부모님 대신 가정으로서. Okay, now this is a big one, all right? 하나님 is God. 참부모님 is a true parent or true parents. 대신, representing, representative family. So as, and 우로서 means as a family that is the representative family, as the representative family of God and true parents, our family is supposed to represent God. And our family is supposed to represent true parents. When people, Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father, we should be able to say the same. And when you see us, you see God. When you see us, you see the true parents. That's a pretty big order, but we're getting there. We're going to work towards that, okay? This is what we pledge. Because he always, 완성할, this is in the future tense, that we're going to complete. We're going to do this. Not that, when we're going to make a sincere effort towards doing that. So here, so 하나님과 God and true parents, so 대신 가정. So as the family representing God and true parents, 천은 is a heavenly fortune. We normally translate it as 천, it's heaven, right? Almost always 천 in Father's teaching will most likely refer to heaven. 천운 is kind of fortune. 움직이는 가정이 돼요. So a family that moves heavenly fortune. So as a family representing God and true parents, we're going to move heavenly fortune and 하늘의 축복을 주변에 연결시키는 가정. So a family that connect God's blessing 주변, to everyone around us. And blessing here refers to the holy blessing. That we're going to connect the holy blessing to everyone around us as the family that is representing God and true parents. So 가정을, so we're placing here to 완성할. And it's in the future tense. Well, it's not in the past tense. We're not telling God that we've already done this. We're going to do this in the future. We're working towards that. 완성할. We're going to complete that. And this is what we pledge. Okay, in number 6. So all of this is, when you really get into it, it seems like a pretty tall order, and it is. But this is the goal or the ideal that God has given us for our families. And this is why Father says that this is the core of the Constitution. This is the prayer among prayers. It's the gospel among all gospels. It's the blessing among all blessings from God. So if we can just do everything that is in this pledge, we'll be home free. It'll take some time to get there, but we'll get there. All right, and then let's look at number 7. So first line, exactly the same. 천유국, owner, our, family, true love, centering on. Now, what are we going to do? 본연, 본연 means, we translate it as original, okay? Original, and 혈통, anybody know what 혈통 means, other than Jenny? 혈통, 혈, blood, lineage. Blood lineage, the original blood lineage. So 연결된, so connected to the original blood lineage. 위하는 생활. 생활 means life or daily life. 위하는 means to living for the sake of others. So 를 통하여. So through a life of living for the sake of others, and this life is connected to the original lineage. Wow. So we need to connect to the original lineage. Uh-oh. There are some people out there who think that, I've got God's blessing and I have His word, so I'm free and I can just go and do whatever I want. Oopsie daisy. 본연의 혈통과 연결된. So connecting to the original lineage. 심정 문화 세계를 완성할 것을 맹세하냐. So we see here 심정, okay, 심정 culture world, because the world of, and in English I think it's translated as world of heart, the world of the culture of heart. But again, 심정 is that irrepressible impulse from which love flows, and from which God's love flows. So that the culture of 심정 culture, that culture of 심정. And that would be a culture of that irrepressible impulse to invest love in an object partner so as to experience love and joy. With that irrepressible impulse. Now, when you see someone who needs help, you have an irrepressible impulse to help that person, to give that person what they need in order to get them through whatever difficulty that they are experiencing or something like that. Right now, in the world, we have enough food to feed all of humanity. But every day, tens of thousands of people die of hunger. While in other parts of the world, a lot of food goes to waste. This is obviously not a world of 심정 culture, not a place where people have this irrepressible impulse to help people who are in need. And I know sometimes it's better to teach people how to fish rather than to give them fish. But that doesn't mean that you can just stand by and watch them starve to death, does it? If they really need a fish now, well, first give them a few fish and then teach them how to fish. But of course, you don't want them to become dependent on you. But people have needs that are necessary, that have to be met right now. So help them with those needs if you can, and then teach them how to meet their own needs, and perhaps then even go to the next level of going out and helping others as well. So I think that would be the kind of situation, that would be one type of situation that we would have in a world of a 심정 culture. That's not the entirety of it, but I would expect that would be certainly one thing. Father once said this way, actually not just once, but in the unification between North and South Korea, it's easy, he said. All it has to do is that people in North Korea and people in South Korea change places. People in South Korea go live in the homes of the North Koreans, and then let all the North Koreans come and live in your home. Maybe that's an expression of 심정 culture. I don't know. But anyway, that was kind of an example, perhaps, that Father was giving. So here we're pledging to complete a world of 심정 culture. In other words, that irrepressible impulse to invest love. How? Through a daily life of living for the sake of others, which is connected to the original lineage. And this would suggest that we cannot do this unless we are connected to that original lineage. Okay, so that is verse number 7. And then number 8, this is the final verse. First line, again, exactly the same. 전유국, owner, our family, true love, centering on, okay. 소약 시대를 맞이하여. So, and 맞다, or this verb can mean to greet or to welcome or to meet, something like that. And so in the completed, 소약 시대 means the completed Testament age. I'll just give you that. So I'm giving you fish, all right, but you guys got to learn how to fish later on. In other words, you got to learn Korean yourselves later on, right? Right now I'm just giving you the answers. So, but eventually you got to learn how to fish, all right? So February 6th, 2022. Okay. All right. So in meeting or greeting or entering the completed Testament age, okay, and we'll talk maybe later as to why that's still the completed Testament age, but it is, okay. 절대신앙, and this I'm sure you must know. 절대신앙 is absolute faith, okay. 절대 means absolute. 절대성 is absolute sex, okay. 절대신앙, 절대 means absolute. 절대사랑, absolute love. 절대 복종, absolute obedience. Okay, so centering on true love and entering or meeting, greeting the completed Testament age, and through or with absolute faith, absolute love, absolute obedience, we will 이루다 means to achieve. 신인의 일체 이상. 신 is God. In is humanity, love. So the 일체 이상, so the ideal of oneness, 일체 means one body, but we can say oneness, ideal of oneness between God and humanity with love. We will achieve that unity, and 지상천국과 천상천국의 해방권과 속방권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다. So we will complete the 해방권, the realm, 권 means realm, liberation, and 속방, we talk about that as a complete freedom. Reverend Yu explained the difference between liberation and complete freedom in this way. He said that on August 15th, Korea was liberated. And August 15th, 1945 is a liberation day for Korea. That was the day that Japan declared, or the Japanese emperor declared that Japan was not going to fight the war anymore, and so they were basically surrendering unconditionally to the Allies. And that happened on August 15th, 1945. So that was liberation for Korea. But even after Korea was liberated, there were still people in prison. So even though the country had been liberated, the people in prison were still there. They had not been released. They were still in prison. Some of them for being part of the independence movement, and there were some political prisoners. There were also some murderers and thieves and so forth. But anyway, they were not yet let out of prison. So he drew Reverend Yu, in giving these lectures, draws the distinction that way, that even though we are within the realm of liberation, then we ourselves still need to take responsibility for our sins. We have to be released from our sins. So that realm there of on the earthly kingdom of heaven and in the heavenly kingdom of heaven, that we will complete those realms of liberation and complete freedom in the earthly kingdom of heaven and the heavenly kingdom of heaven. In other words, the kingdom of heaven in the spirit world, and we'll complete that. Okay, so that is the family pledge and the 8 verses of the family pledge. All right. Any questions about the family pledge? We've been going now for an hour and 15 minutes. Let's take a short break. Let's take I can't remember, how long did we have breaks last year? Was it 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Does anybody remember? Half an hour? Well, if you want to, well, we could do that, and then we could stay here until, a month from now. So let's take a 10-minute break. Let's take a 7-minute break. I remember it was, Well, then let's be back here at 9:25, and then we'll start the next lecture.